I am Dwayne Dwyer, otherwise known as the Mind Coach, the Mindset Coach. I am also joined by my brother, Mr. Roland Walker, who goes by Poor Man's Dr. Phil and the Man of Many Hats. Below us, we are also joined by our brother, Mr. Tawami Gaddy, who is also known as the Available Man. And with us this evening also is my brother from another mother, Mr. Chris McClellan, from across the table with Chris. He will be on stage here in a second. So, with that being said, gentlemen, how are you this week?
Let me make sure. Okay, there we go. Oh, I'm doing all right. I had to make sure I wasn't muted. Doing all right. This week has come to an end, and it's another Good Friday.
Yeah, man.
So I'm well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Apparently, the available man is not so available. Oh, there he is. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing good, doing good. Had to fix something quick technically, That was,
I got you, man. Hey, it's all good. It's all good. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And listen, I want to make sure that I give a shout out to everybody that has joined us in the chats. Again, welcome Michelle Ray, welcome Crystal Everett, Miss Bernadette Simmons, Lisa Keys, and also Queen V, Miss Verlene McCoy. Welcome to this week's conversation, and welcome to all of you who are joining us from all other platforms. Again, we appreciate you. Before we get started, go ahead and do us a huge favor and hit the like button. We like the likes. We like to be liked. That's the social media world, right? So we live for the likes. So everybody go ahead and hit the likes. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and hit the love as well. So we're looking for them on YouTube, Facebook. You got Instagram. Man, you got all kind of stuff out there. So go ahead and give us some likes already as we get started in this conversation. It looks like my brother Chris. Chris, you ready? Okay. So yeah, let's bring. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Chris, welcome to the conversation, brother. How are you?
I am well. I am well. How is everyone?
Hey, man, we're blessed, man. We're blessed. Good to see you. Good to see you. Listen, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, we just want to welcome each and every last one of you. If this is your first time ever joining us, go ahead and look in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. You're going to see an icon. Go ahead and put your cursor on that icon and click the subscribe button so that you can always be notified when we're going live. Also, I want to acknowledge the Empowering Perspective Membership Program, which is a gateway to sustain progression and self improvement. Through personalized resources, supportive community, and thought provoking content, we empower you to transform your perspective, unleash your potential, and embark on a journey of continuous growth through this e learning platform. This is not just a membership, it's a commitment to involving your worldview, enhancing your skills, and enriching your life. Discover the power within. Join the Empowering Perspective program today. So if you look below your screen on YouTube, you'll see a join button. Go ahead and click that button, and then you have another live video. It tells you about all four aspects of the program. If you're on a mobile device, you're going to have to look in the show notes. That's okay. We put the link in the show notes there as well. And again, you click that link, it will be brought to your attention. Gentlemen, moving forward, as we're getting ready to talk about this week's conversation, we're going to focus our attention on harnessing small wins for greater emotional intelligence. Now, I got to paint the picture first because we got to make sure that we completely understand what the problem is. So, people struggle to develop and enhance their emotional intelligence because they perceive the process as a large, daunting task that requires significant, immediate change. The challenge lies in the lack of understanding and recognition that emotional intelligence can be cultivated and grown incrementally through a series of small, manageable steps or wins. Moreover, these small wins often get unnoticed or undervalued, either because people aren't aware of them or they dismiss them as insignificant. This can lead to a sense of stagnation or frustration in their journey to enhance emotional intelligence. People may feel they aren't making progress when, in fact, they might be overlooking their small wins or incremental improvements. Finally, there's a lack of guidance or resources on how to identify, appreciate, and harness these small wins to foster greater emotional intelligence, further exacerbate the issue. Overall, the problem is rooted in the misconception that large, transformative changes are necessary for improving emotional intelligence, coupled with the failure to recognize, appreciate, and build upon the small wins along the way. That being said, what we have to understand collectively is that emotional intelligence, an often underrated but critical skill, can be nurtured and strengthened through a process of recognizing and harnessing those small wins, and its conscious application can bring about transformative changes in our personal and professional lives. So, the first thing I want to drop on your in your laps, I really want to know, gentlemen, in your own words, how can you define emotional intelligence?
I've always been a base level
Before
bottom
these
line kind of
profound
guy.
brothers.
Oh, go ahead, Tawame. It's on you.
Now I was trying to sneak in there before y'all got all profound and everything, because kind of like what you said. I base level and simple to me. For me, emotional intelligence is simply understanding how to navigate through your emotions and how to operate with and in spite of your emotions as they change and fluctuate.
That was pretty much where I was going to go. Emotional intelligence is just that, being intelligent with your emotions.
You mean like what Roland looks like right now?
I look intelligent. Yeah, man, let me put my glasses on. I look like I can read.
Oh man, Roland, you look like whatever you know I need to know.
Hey, see, and hey, believe it or not, I got jogging pants on. So no, let me stop. Let me stop messing. But I think people hear intelligence and they think IQ, and they try to marry intelligence and emotionalism together as if you have to be smart when it comes to being emotional. I think what you have to do is have a certain intellect to realize when you yourself may be taking things higher or not as high as they should be. So you got to use a level of intelligence to know when and where to act a certain way, to be a certain way. Because sometimes people will overblow small things, or they may take something that's large and minimize it, especially when it's concerning someone else. So you have to have the emotional intelligence to say, man, while I'm listening to what's going on, I gotta be able to decipher whether or not I should, one, speak or just listen, two, add input, and if it's input, is it valuable? And that's, to me, emotional intelligence.
I like it. I like it. I would say I would add to what you're saying, just in a very simplistic aspect, to be aware enough to understand that my emotions should not be stagnant wherever they are right now. So the intelligence piece means that I have the ability to adjust and change and grow based upon the information that I'm acquiring. When it comes down to my emotions, what I have to learn to do is not allow them to that they do not put me in a position in which I do not want to be. Do not put me in a position to where it yields a negative outcome. Do not put me in a position to where I try to dominate the environment. Do not put me in a position to where I repel people away from me just simply because I have emotional outbursts. So just the concept of being aware and self-regulating myself to such a degree that I am listening, I am learning, and I am adapting based upon the information that I'm acquiring. That's is about as simple as I can make it without going to the book and pulling out like textbook jargon and all kind of other stuff.
That is pretty much it in a nutshell. Being intelligent with your emotions. Roland made a good point about people thinking that intelligence when it comes to emotions is IQ, and it really is not. It is more along the lines of understanding the emotions that you are feeling so that way you know how to react instead of reacting solely on your emotion. As men, we have to be smart when it comes to our emotions, and we cannot allow our emotions to dictate our actions. So we have to be intelligent with them. Yes, you have a gut feeling. Yes, that gut feeling is valid, but you must understand where that gut feeling is coming from so that way you don't go the opposite way you should go. That to me is emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, and I like that as well because we see way too many times where somebody who does not have that ability to regulate their emotions end up in a blotter for one reason or the other. So that's one of the main reasons why we have these discussions, because we just want to create awareness when it comes down to it. Your emotions they're not intended to control you. That's the piece. It doesn't matter what the conversation is. It does not matter what the outcome of any situation is. Your emotions were never designed to control you. It's supposed to go the other way around, because your emotions in, and if I'm just being completely transparent, your emotions is the gateway to your creativity. But that's a whole nother conversation. So what I want to do is kind of transition into a question for you, gentlemen, based upon this conversation of emotional intelligence. So the question is, if you were to place the same value on enhancing your emotional intelligence as you do on improving your professional skills, physical health, or academic knowledge, how might that shift in perspective transform your relationships, decision making, and well being?
I think learning how to control yourself is a must, especially when you are in business or in relationship or whatever. Because if you can't control yourself, that means other people will control you. They'll control you with their actions by your reactions. And if you're always reacting, then you are never in a place of comfort, because you're waiting for the ball to drop. You're waiting for the shoe to fall. And it'll drive you crazy, and things like that driving you crazy make you drive everyone around you crazy. So I think being in a state where you are composed, per se, it allows you to, one, think about what's going on around you in your surroundings, and formulate thought and opinion about what's going on before you react. And that's beneficial to you and everyone around you, because you don't want to just react off the cuff, because that's where you have violence occurs or snappy judgments and things like that.
I would say that this would get a lot of people out of survival mode. If you can be emotionally intelligent about everything that is going on around you, then you can understand that a lot of the things that are happening are temporary, and B, you'll be able to navigate way easier understanding how you feel about things, and kind of, I guess that's it, understanding how you feel about things and learning that what you feel is valid, but you have to think about it.
I'll jump in right where you left off, because more, yes, how you feel about it, but more than how you feel, but why, right? I think when you can understand why I feel this way, or why does this bother me? What is the root cause? When you dig into your emotional intelligence for real, right? And what we're talking about is emotional health, right? How do I become healthy emotionally? Because some people are not there. They only operate in their emotions because maybe there's a lack somewhere down in the past that has triggered you along the way, that has caused you to become more angry all the time, or caused you to feel and despair, or cause you to put on this victim mentality because of our emotions. A lot of us are driven by that emotion. A lot of us are driven by our every second of how we feel. And so digging down into my emotional intelligence causes me to understand not just how I feel and what made me, but why do I feel this way? What has gone on in my life that has been unaddressed this long, that I have a problem with hearing people sit. I know y'all look at me crazy, but I got a friend that cannot stand being around jokers who sit. If he hears he loses mind. I don't know why. I don't know if he knows why, but those conversations have to be had with yourself. And I think when that happens, and you start dealing with suppressed trauma that you might not even understand you have, it begins to relieve a weight that has been on you you didn't even know was there. You just been living with it and dragging it along.
So you guys have already peeled the band-aid off of this thing. So I kind of want to go back because Roland, you mentioned not allow when you put that much time, energy, and efforts to understanding emotional intelligence, right? It prevents you from allowing someone else to control you. Can you kind of peel that open just a little bit so we can get a better understanding?
I think that when it comes to people, whether they want to or not, control other people. Like you will have in a relationship, sometimes you will have someone play on the feelings of the other person, whether they feel bad, good, or indifferent. Well, you said you were going to do this. Kids do. Well, you said I could go. Okay, now I'm saying you couldn't. And you know, I think growing up as men in our era, we were taught pretty much not to have emotions. It was almost a bad thing. Don't cry, don't feel. That so then when you grow up not crying, not feeling, sometimes those people that instructed you in that manner control you in a sense because now it's like you a grown man and they say, hey, you ain't supposed to be doing this. Like, hold up, I can't show emotion. I'm vulnerable right now and I'm trying to express myself and you're trying to hold me to that little kid instead of allowing me to exercise what's normal to everybody and vent. So sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes any control outside of yourself can be bad, can be detrimental. That's why you have to be the one in control of your emotions and your state of being. Because when you're not and other people can do it, they can have you up, they can have you down. Then somebody's happy, they're sad, somebody leave. It's like, oh, my world is coming to an end. No, your world ain't coming to an end. They just left. Like I told you before, my father told me, he can say, you can catch another before you catch a cold. So get over it.
So what I'm understanding, and I want to make sure I'm paraphrasing what you're saying accurately. So as children, we were supposed to be taught how to, number one, understand the emotions that we have, and then learn how to manage them in such a degree that they become healthy, so that as we become adults, we're not emotionally handicapped or emotionally manipulating anyone as adults and growing over into our older and more senior years.
Yes, because what we do is we become a carbon copy of our parents or whomever raised us. And we start sometimes when you mature, you start to see, man, I have some ugly ways. And those ugly ways came from people that raised you, came from people that taught you. And you realize like that wasn't good for me then. So I refuse to teach my children that now. So I'm going to allow them to express themselves in a respectful manner, but I'm going to allow them to express themselves.
I like that. I definitely like that. And then the other side of what you're saying is that so the boys were taught to suppress their emotions, but the girls were taught to express their emotions. So as they grow up, you got one side that expresses and the other that doesn't express it. And then what happens is it creates a rift between the two of them because what we believe is that there is no intimacy in the relationship.
Yeah, then we make up little lies like, well, opposites attract. He beat you upside the head. That's not an opposite. You don't like it. That's not an opposite. That's crazy. So yes, you have to. And anytime you raise two opposites like that, it boils to be a combative relationship. And then she thinks she's right. He think he's right. And there's no middle ground. So there's no real relationship built.
Yeah, I like
So
that.
would that be the reason why people today mistake an absence of emotional expression as masculinity?
Nope.
I just had to put it out there.
Oh my God, that was funny.
I was waiting
I
on
was-
it.
I don't think that was a serious question. I think that was a setup question, to be honest with you. um,
You are not going to bait me tonight, Tawame. That is not happening.
that was pretty good. That was pretty good. But Chris, I am coming back to you, sir, if you don't mind, because you mentioned it can help you get out of survival mode. I agree with you first, but I want you to kind of paint the picture and kind of help everybody else understand why you went there first.
Because things happen And as men, we were taught to just get over it and move on. As men, we were taught that showing emotion was actually quote unquote feminine. I really wish the narrative that only women are emotional creatures would be destroyed, because we are all emotional creatures, because we all feel emotions. The thing about it is, no one taught, we were never taught how to deal with them. So we are always suppressing. And when we are always suppressing, there's this thing that we have in our gut that we know is there, but it's like, if I express it, what do I do? If I express it, I got to hear from this person that I'm acting sensitive. I got to hear from this person that I'm in my feelings. So I am trying to survive not showing my emotions. And then, like I said previously on previous shows, small things become gigantic when you suppress that. So as men, we are in survival mode because we have been taught to not have feelings. We have been taught to not have feelings under the guise of being stoic. You understand what I'm saying? And stoicism and not being emotional, stoicism and not feeling emotions are two totally different things, but for some reason they're synonymous. So that is what I mean by survival mode. We are attempting to survive, not being able to express how we feel. And then the moment that we do, we are all of a sudden toxic, or we are all of a sudden the bad guy. No, I have these feelings in my gut and I know that they are valid and I need an outlet to express them. I should be able to without being called a name. You understand what I'm saying? That is what I mean by survival mode.
I love it. I like it, and you're spot on. And I will add to it, telling me that the only place that I get to express that feeling that I have in my gut is with my dudes, knowing that they did not cause that feeling to surface. That's not helping me. That doesn't, and it's not healthy, because the only thing that you're going to end up doing is we're probably in most cases experiencing some of the same things, just at different moments in time. So we bond stronger, but the bond that brings us closer together is the trauma that we're experiencing. So that becomes an issue as well. So we just have the exact same story, and it becomes a never-ending story from man to man. But we have to get to the point to where we can talk to each other, right? We got to be able to talk to our spouse. We got to be able to talk to our significant other. We got to teach our children, like Roland said, to be able to express those emotions. So I thank you for sharing that, brother. And again, the other side to it, I mentioned it earlier, is that emotions is the gateway to your creativity. That's the other thing, and I talk about that. I talk about that in the actual membership program, and we talk about how it's actually tied to that thing that we call faith. So it has a reason, it has a purpose, but the problem is that we're not necessarily taught how to use it. We're not necessarily taught what it is, and then we mess around and go someplace and you hear somebody use a scripture out of context and say, well, that's why you have to express yourself in the way that you've been expressing yourself, and don't let anybody tell you differently. That is wrong. That is wrong. So thank you for sharing that, brother, and I appreciate that. Brother Gaddy, you talked a couple of things, man, and I loved it. You brought in understand the why, root cause. Talk to me about the root cause analysis of emotional intelligence.
Whew, man. So let's say, and I'm gonna be a little jokey with it, right? Because I don't want to trigger nobody, nothing. But let's say growing up, someone accidentally spilled some coffee on you, messed up your clothes, right? Something simple and easy. And throughout life, you always stayed away from people who drink coffee. And so later on, one day, you get into a relationship with somebody and they always coming next to you with coffee, and it triggers you and it makes you mad and it makes you angry. And you don't know why you're angry every time this person comes around you with coffee, but you just know that you've expressed to them, I don't like coffee around me. Get away from me with that coffee before you burn me, before you mess up my couch, before you do this. And you constantly go off on a tangent every time that person comes around you drinking coffee. Right now, the problem is I like coffee. So you're not going to control my ability to drink coffee in the morning because you're in the kitchen. So I gotta wait till you leave the kitchen to drink some coffee in the morning. That's not going to happen. And then we tend to manipulate people with our emotions because we can't understand, or we forgot, or we don't know what that root cause was. It was someone spilled some coffee on you and messed up your outfit when you were 8 years old, and now you hate people with coffee. And I'm just using coffee as an example, but there's an underlying issue that has happened somewhere down the line that has caused you to have outrage when certain things are said, certain behaviors are presented. Shoot, my daddy used to pop me in the mouth every time I chewed with my mouth open. So if you come around me sounding like the moment I hear you smack, everything inside me gonna boil, because I remember getting backhand while but I know where that comes from, and so because I understand where that comes from, I end up saying old cliches that our grandparents used to say, "What's wrong with you? You was raised in the barn? You weren't taught how to eat at the table?" Like stuff like that. So we have to get back to the root cause. We have to understand why we have these emotional triggers that we have so that we can start to deal with them.
Okay.
I think I could look at the root cause of how we were raised and how our parents and grandparents were raised would be to not show weakness. Because when you show emotions, when you lash out, it's an expression of something being wrong and your displeasure in it. And coming out of slavery and those sorts of times where, they wanted to lash out, they wanted to react. But remember, these are people that got dogs sicked on them, got water hoses sprayed on them, and all these things. And if they were to react, then certain things would happen and they could lose their lives. So in turn, the parents would say, okay, whatever I'm doing to you is not death, so it's not that bad. So you can't cry. If it ain't, are you bleeding? Are you dead? Okay, get up, move on. And we, instead of realizing that we aren't in, sometimes when you're in trauma so much, when you get out of trauma, you still act like you're in trauma. It's the same reason when I got out of the hood, I still ate pork and beans and weenies. I still ate my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It was like, man, I ain't broke, but I eat like I'm broke. I do things like I had a broken mentality, a broken mindset, and I brought that along with me. And we got to get out of that just with the emotions and the brokenness. We got to get out of that because people need to express themselves or they will bottle it up and not understand the root of it. Well, my mama did it and her mama did it, so it must be right. No, it's not right.
Hey, I like my broke food. You know what I mean? I just bought a can of corned beef
Diabetes, that's what you bought. Can diabetes.
But Tawame, the coffee analogy was spot on. There's the underlying root cause, like, okay, I got burnt by coffee when I was 8 years old, so I do not like coffee around me. But there's also that on the other side, I am not the one that burnt you. So do not blame me for what I was not even around for. Do not do that to me. That is unfair. I did not do anything to you. So there's the other side of that as well. You understand what I'm saying? So the coffee analogy was brilliant.
Yeah, I liked it as well. And I want to make sure, because you guys kind of unpacked a lot of things here. So I'm understanding, based upon what Tawame said, I'm understanding that in a lot of cases, a person's emotional hangups, and somebody mentioned triggers in the chat. So a person's triggers may not necessarily be based upon the individual that is before them. It may have stemmed from an event that took place years ago, but they never addressed the fact that this thing bothered me, and they never talk with that individual about the depth and breadth of their emotions at that particular point, given that particular situation. Am I correct by saying that?
I think you said it better than I did.
No. I just want to make sure. I just want to make it make sense, because some people don't even like coffee. But so moving forward, Roland, I like where you went with it, because what you may be experiencing is what could be known as systemic trauma from a culture that existed and has been passed down from generation to generation. So we're teaching trauma within the scope of our own community. Am I correct by saying that?
Yes, sir.
So I love this, because these are some things that most of us don't know. And you're looking your mate in the face and you're demonizing that person, and they are completely unaware of the traumas that they possess, let alone the fact that the triggers that show up in their face cause them to come up. So that's why I'm asking questions to such a degree that we are, because what we need to understand is that everybody needs a little bit of grace. I want to make sure I'm saying that. In
Can
that vein, oh yes, sir. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask a question, because when you said the way you said it, maybe I took it wrong, but the way you said it, cultural trauma, I think when you live in a multicultural world, wouldn't you say that we all have some sort of emotional trauma? Because and I say it like that because once I may have been taught that men behave this way because of my culture, but once I come into this world where there's 13,000 cultures, and I see men act opposite of what I was taught that men act, that becomes triggering. And that just may be something cultural that my daddy taught me. That's not how Muslim men, or that's not how Black men, or that's not how Hindu men, or whatever the case may be. That's not how they act. Is that making sense? Does that make sense?
No, you're making a lot of sense. And probably about 5 words down, that's what I was going. So no, you're good. You're good. And you're absolutely correct. No, you're good. But you're absolutely correct. Like when we look at some of the things that and I'm not going to kind of sugarcoat it, like when we look at some of the things that we collectively suffer from, well, everybody collectively suffering from something in some shape, form, or fashion. I think sometimes in our own naiveness, we believe that, well, this person has it better than me. We're sure if we're doing a comparison thing, but everybody is suffering from something. That's the point that we need to understand. What this person over here and this person over here is suffering from is not my responsibility. My responsibility is this person right here. So as long as I focus on me and continue to become the better version of myself, that means I get the privilege to help everybody around me heal and grow. That's the space that we got to get to. And that's why I was asking these questions to such a degree that I was. Chris, you're unmuted, bro. So I think you want to say something. And if I cut you off, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I am simply I am listening.
Okay.
But here's the thing. I understand the cultural triggers, and I understand the multicultural triggers that we see on a regular basis. However, I believe that a component of emotional intelligence is understanding, okay, this is triggering me. Why? Why is this triggering me? Is it something that happened to me, or is it something that I heard happened oh so long ago that happened to people before me? What is this? How do I deal with it? I think that is the component that is missing.
I love that, Chris, because you in order to deal with anything, you have to identify it. You have to say it is what it is. And having dealt with young people who have been physically molested or anything like that, I've seen where they buried it and forgot about it. And then when they were in a relationship with someone else, it pops up. Or you see young girls who don't know why they just are promiscuous, why they are a certain way. It's because you had some issues when you were being babysat back in the day or whatever. That's not every case, but that can be the case in some manner. I think we have to definitely identify what has been done, especially if I feel a certain way. And why am I, like Chris said, why am I triggered by this? Why does this always bother me? And when you find the root of it, then you can start to dig it up. You can start to see why, and you can actually start to get some help.
I like it. I like it very well. Excuse me. So I kind of want to get into the chats, man, because I mean they are blowing it up over there, and I'm seeing some things that we really need to bring to the table. But I don't want to miss anybody, so I want to go back and welcome. Where did I miss? There we go. So welcome Brianna Moore. If I'm not mistaken, that's that young lady that asked that amazing question that week. So welcome back, E Black TV. Welcome to the show. Cassandra McKenzie. Welcome to the show. Let me see who am I missed. The hobbyist. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the first part of that, so I'm just gonna call you the hobbyist. I hope I'm not offensive, but welcome to the show. Joel, welcome to the show. Always good to see you. I think the traveling geek, welcome to the show. I think I got it. Christian Barrow, I would not forget you, young brother. Welcome to the show. I think I have everybody now. Again, if you're out there, by all means, get in the chat because we definitely appreciate and value what you're bringing to the table. So I'm gonna put my hands up and I'm gonna stop touching stuff. And whatever comments that show up on the panel, those are the comments that we're going to address next. Because I am loving what they're saying. So eBlack TV says emotional intelligence is learning and understand your current emotional triggers, needs, and lack. Absolutely, absolutely. And just really what those brothers were talking about. So thank you for that. Michelle Ray says we have been programmed to use emotions to manipulate conversations and most of all people. Facts. I can't stress that enough. Great point. Thank you for that. At Chris, that is it. Real-life situation or incidents are temporary was a key factor that in assisting me with my emotional health. Yeah, absolutely. Situations are temporary, but people, I mean, they're more important than the situations and instances. So absolutely, good point, and thank you for that. Let me see what we got next. Common sense along with your emotions, and be smart enough to know the difference. You don't have to be intelligent or smart to use common sense. Man, I love that. And you know what? Go ahead, brother.
Common sense isn't always that common, though.
I was going to say the same thing. Some people struggle with common sense, but she is absolutely correct. Thank you for that. All right. Some people do not have emotional intelligence. They lie to themselves. Big facts. There is only one situation where a lie is acceptable. And again, we talk about that in the membership program. But when you lie to another person hoping that they believe your lie, that is so wrong. So wrong. But thank you for that. Awesome. Oftentimes, emotions are suppressed because of the perceived backlash. Learning to navigate these emotions creates a healthy environment. Can we pause there for a second? What are your thoughts there? Because I like that comment. What are your thoughts on that?
This is what I was speaking on earlier about men expressing themselves and being put in some box. Oh, you acting real feminine, or you acting real emotional, you in your feelings. It is not that serious. It's serious if I said something because I am not allowed to say something in the first place. I am not allowed to feel these feelings in the first place. So if I even speak on it, then they're valid. So you're right. We are going to talk about this. You can use any shaming tactic you want. You can use any insult you want. You can use any guilt trip you want. But we are going to talk about this. I do not care. I have this gut feeling and I need to get it out because if it festers, it's going to blow up and you are not going to like it. So let's just address this now so that way I do not turn into the Incredible Hulk later.
Sometimes I think people will, in this instance, like people will label people. Like people label Chris mad because he's passionate about what he's saying.
Oh, no, I'm mad. I'm angry.
Yeah, but
that's
people,
my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
And people will label people when they're talking to them like, "Oh, you ain't got to get mad." I'm not mad. I'm my voice raised because it's a heightened sense of awareness because of what we're talking about. I'm passionate about it. I'm not yelling at you. I'm not degrading you. It's just the situation has elevated the conversation. So don't go into Karen mode and bring me some fake tears that now I got to talk like this and with my hands under my feet or something like that so that you feel comfortable because now you feel scared for your life or something because I'm speaking up for myself, because that's another form of manipulation. People feel scared because I speak up for myself, you're fearful.
Oh no, you wasn't scared when you was pulling this stunt. Don't get scared now that I'm not now that I'm talking. F that. Listen, I have learned to forget your tears, forget your fake emotion or whatever to try to make me feel bad for feeling the way that I feel. I do not care. Go ahead and boo-hoo till your eyes bleed. That is on you. But we are going to talk about this. And you are not going to manipulate me with your little petty emotions, because they are going to change the moment I soften my voice. And if I soften my voice, you are going to think that that is going to get me to give you your way. I do not negotiate with terrorists. This is it.
Hey, you know what? Real talk. Even though I made a face when you said I don't negotiate with terrorists, I really do believe people who emotionally manipulate are terrorists. At the end of the day, I 100% agree. Like, I know you probably said that for effect, but I really do think you're a terrorist. Those of you who are out there manipulating people, you're a terrorist. But when I read this statement, it came to my mind like this, along the lines of what we were just talking about. I think it's because either you or somebody in the past have already manipulated me and gained control over my emotional reactions, or how I react to my emotions. And so, because you have either shamed me for how I feel, or you've belittled me for how I feel, or you've tried to control the narrative based upon feelings, now every time it's time to have those tough conversations, I'm always fearful because of what I perceive to happen. Because let's be honest, at 37 years old, 40 something years old, we don't perceive possible reactions or outcomes unless it's something we've experienced before, right? You know why your children's afraid to tell you they did something wrong? Because they don't want to get spanked, or they don't want to get popped, or they don't want to get put on timeout or put in the corner. So somebody has manipulated whoever that person is that is afraid of the emotional backlash. That's how I feel about it.
You know, I love your responses. And Chris, man, I was over here. I'm glad I was muted, man. I probably would have drowned out your sound. I was laughing so hard. I like everybody's response, and I really do like this statement, because I know that this statement is somebody's reality, multiple somebody's out there. That's why I really wanted to pause here, because in this statement, I think we look at a few things. We look at the fact that, well, this person's been through some things and they're fearful of being honest in that conversation. But then on the other side, you're looking at the fact that, well, just because this person been through some things, this person now has to suffer because of the fear. But the big problem here isn't the suppression and isn't the result of the suppression. The big problem here is that you didn't feel comfortable enough to come to me and talk to me about the thing that has you suppressing your emotions before we got into the situation or the conversation where you had to suppress your emotion. That's the issue. And if we, and this goes back to what Gaddy said, the root cause analysis, if we can search ourselves and be completely transparent with the person that we're dealing with, and then help them to understand, like, you know, whatever's going on, whatever took place, whatever. And I got it. That takes a degree of transparency, that takes a degree of vulnerability. And neither one of those are bad things, by the way. It takes those things to be completely honest, vulnerable, and transparent to your partner, so that they can understand those things and help you get over whatever thing that makes you suppress your emotions. I think that's the key. Go ahead, Chris.
I think another part of that is, and I say this a lot, I've said this on previous shows, I cannot ask something of someone that I am not willing to give myself. I have to open that door for you. Hey, talk to me. We do not have to go down these 25 different steps to get here. Talk to me, because I want to be free enough to talk to you. I am not attacking you. You are not a horrible person. We just need to talk, because we need to figure some things out. I think that's another part of it that is lost in translation. Everybody wants gimme emotional intelligence. Talk to me. But nobody wants to open up and say, I need to talk to you, so I want you to talk to me. You understand what I'm saying? I always say this: there is no gain without sacrifice. You must give before you get. If you want that person to feel like you are that emotional space, you have to give it to them. And you have to let them know this is a no judgment zone. We are going to talk. You do not have to do all of the you do not have to attempt to manipulate me. It is not necessary. I am not here to hurt you. I just need to figure some things out. The door is always open. Let us talk. But do not attempt to manipulate me, and do not suppress anything and then later on it blows up when you could have come to me initially and said, hey, we need to talk. You understand what I'm saying? We have to provide that space.
Great point, and I'm glad you brought that. Lisa Keys, thank you for that, because that was a great statement. Cassandra says sometimes we suppress emotions because there is not anyone that will openly accept the emotions that we're trying to express. Then that person isolates themselves and become reclusive. That's pretty much exactly what the brother was just explaining just now. So great point, and thank you for bringing that to the table. Traveling Geek, again, welcome to the show. I wonder how many men on the panel have an emotional safe space in their mate. Since there's only 2 brothers on this panel that have mates, gentlemen, the floor is yours. Be careful. She's listening.
I think, and that have an emotional safe space in their mate. I think even with mates, you are still in the learning phase. I don't care how long you've been together. And sometimes things come out because when you first get together, you meeting her representative, she's meeting you as a representative. Hey, I'm Don Juan, and hey, nothing stinks. I'm good. Then you live with somebody and you got some hangups. It's like I'm like Gaddy's father. I can't stand people chewing around me. It just irritates the mess out of me and make me flip out. So it's some things that I'm working on. There's some things that she has to work on. And when it comes to a safe space, I think that's a learned process over time, because in the beginning, everyone wants to get their point across, wants to be heard. Nobody really tells you, hey, you got to listen. And over time, you start to say, man, I got to shut my mouth and listen. And that doesn't happen overnight. So that safe space is a ongoing thing. And that's why you even see old couples that be, Harold, put your seatbelt on. And Harold sitting up there, I don't want to put my seatbelt, whatever it is, because they are still learning triggers. Like, I ain't like when you told me back in 67 to put my seatbelt on in the Chevrolet, and now they tripping about that. That's how they say it. I grew up around old people, but but yeah, so I think that's always an ongoing thing where you always learning your mate.
Dude, got me over here crying. You stupid.
Chevrolet.
But right. Hey, but let me be 100%. I agree with my brother. And this is not a knock at our mates, right? And I'm just being 100, right? My true emotional safe space are usually one of my boys, and let me explain why. I live my life for my family, primarily for my spouse, because these kids gonna grow up and get the heck out, and she gonna be the only one still here, right? So that's what I live primarily for. The Most High, and then my wife. So a lot of the things that I go through and things I need to express sometimes that I don't want to blow up at the person when I express them, it's the person that I live with, the person that I am emotionally involved with, if not all the time. And so sometimes I need an outlet to express myself, to get it out so I can bring it back. I've never heard Roland, not even to me, bring back up a conversation I had with him so I can express myself. Dude's never brought it back up again. I forgot that I even had certain conversations with him until I remember, oh yeah, I did talk to you about this. All right. And same thing with Coach. Anything I've ever shared with him or in his presence has never come back up. So that has become a safe space, and vice versa. they share something with me, I'm not going to bring it back up. Also, did you talk with such? Did you talk with such? That's not how we operate, because I understand that sometimes you have to get away from the person that you're emotionally involved with, express yourself, then go back and have the conversation. And so and it's not a knock at women, it's not a knock at anybody specifically, it's just the reality. That's where all my emotional energy goes. So my safe space is outwardly, because don't none of y'all outside this house can change or move my emotions. You ain't that important to my to and not I ain't mean that to sound bad, but you ain't. It's
I'm over here laughing at O'Shea because O'Shea said y'all hesitated, so y'all in trouble. Listen, so that being said, I wanted to address that because again, those brothers are married. That's why I left it to those two to respond to that. So we're going to move on to the next talking point. And again, you guys are adding so much value to the conversation. Keep putting the information in the chat, and we're going to get to them as well. So I want to kind of bring to the table some of the challenges. We kind of talked about them in layman's terms, but generally, emotional intelligence challenges, if you will, they kind of exist in about 7 different spaces. So number 1, you have the misconception and lack of awareness, like I talked about previously. But then number 2, you have underestimation of importance. You have measurement difficulties. You have cultural differences. You have lack of education, and then you have resistance to change. For this conversation, I'm going to reduce it down to 3 points that we're going to address. So the first point that we're going to address under it is lack of education. Now, when it comes down to lack of education is based upon the institution. So many educational institutions focus heavily on academic achievement and less on emotional or social learning. This lack of emphasis in emotional skills can lead to a society less familiar with the concept and benefits of emotional intelligence. So we're going to change it up a little bit because we're going to throw you guys a curveball with the scenario. So here we go. You're a parent of 2 teenagers, right? Let me get to this one. So you're a parent of 2 teenagers. You've always valued emotional intelligence and believe that it's a critical skill for success in life. However, your children's school focuses heavily on academic achievement and pays little attention to the development and emotional and social skills. Lately, you've noticed that both of your children are having difficulties in managing their emotions. One seems to bottle up their feelings and is becoming increasingly withdrawn, while the other seems to have frequent emotional outbursts. Despite your attempts to discuss and navigate these issues at home, it's clear that they need more consistent guidance and practice in emotional intelligence. Gentlemen, that being said, the first question that I am going to ask you in relation to this particular situation, what steps could you take at home to help your children understand and manage their emotions better?
I think for me, we about to write some stuff down. We about to write our feelings. We about to have some type of, you can dialogue with the book, dialogue with the piece of paper. And when you write down what you're feeling, how you're feeling, and go through that, I think sometimes it becomes therapeutic. And as that becomes therapeutic for them, it will become therapeutic for the group, because now I get to hear what's bothering my child. I get to see why they're thinking or feeling a certain way and see what maneuvers how I need to, okay, is this school the best? I know academically it may be great, but if they are stunted in other areas that they need to excel in, I may need to make a change as a parent.
So let me ask this. You say, are we talking, because I think Lisa put it in the chat, are you talking in reference to family counseling or just counseling that your child go through themselves?
Well, you had said at home first.
Okay.
So I was thinking that you were saying, what would I do? And I would start at, if we're doing this at home, I'm starting with the little, hey, we got some family time where everybody's going to do that.
My apologies. I misunderstood what you were saying.
I guess I'm going to speak as someone who never had this. I would just constantly remind them that the door is always open. If you need to talk, come talk to me. Doesn't matter what it is about. I'm your father. You are supposed to be able to come talk to me. I am supposed to be the one out of everybody. Me and your mother are the two people on this planet that you should be able to come to with anything. So come talk to me. No pressure. Just come talk to me whenever you are ready. I'm not going to beat you down. I've noticed some things that are different. You wildin', and you are just over here just stuck, just doing nothing, and you are just quiet. This is different. Come talk to us when you are ready. The door is always open. That is where I would start. Being that I am not a parent, I do not know the further steps. I mean, the counseling sounds like the best way to go because there's an outside person that can kind of view everything and give their own perspective. But if we're starting at home, then the home has to be the safe space. Come talk to me. Come talk to us. Schedule a date and time. I will free my schedule up for my children. That is where I would start.
For me, it sounds similar, right? But I would not, or let me not say would not. I do not do a lot of talking in that aspect, right? Because here's what we try to do when we had the oldest kids more often. What we tried to do a minimum twice a week. Sit down at the dinner table and let's talk. You talk, actually. I listen. Hey, how was your day? What happened at school? What classes did you do today? What did you learn? How did you and when they and you learn, the more you allow your children to become comfortable having a conversation with you as human beings, right? Not disrespectful, but as human beings, you find that they become more open to telling you what happened. And then when they tell, they say such and such did this and did that to me. I thought, oh man, how did that make you feel? I didn't like it. You didn't like it. How? Like, what did that make you feel? Made me feel angry, and I wanted to do something. Let's explore that anger. Let's explore it. And then you have these conversations and let them do most of the talking. I just ask key questions. Let them express it. And then if there's a need, and I evaluate how they handle the situation. Did they suppress it? Did they say something? Did they get angry? Did they hit the kid? Did they throw stuff? What did they do? Then I can direct based upon what I already know has taken place, because it's already real to them. And once they have expressed it, I can show them what what I'm saying through their own life. See, so that anger you feel, that's an emotion. Emotions change. You don't always need to react on the emotion. Oh, but he keeps doing it. Have you said something to teach him? Now, I sound like I'm diplomatic, but there's only so many times my son gonna come home and tell me that the same kid kicked his stuff over and pushed his stuff before we're gonna have a meeting with the kid's parents. I don't want to see the principal. I want to see your daddy. But that's a whole nother conversation. But for me, I try to keep an open dialogue with my children about their day, about their interactions, about their teachers, about their friends, about their work, so that they can be or feel free to express these things to me and make it not just comfortable, but make it common, so that they're not just comfortable, but they're also it's a regular habit for them to come and express it to me. And then we can take matters from there.
I am I'm appreciating everybody's point of view on this question because I think as we are unpacking this, I think we might be helping somebody who might be going through this because I see a few comments in there. I think Cassandra said she actually went through this. Um, for me, I think I'm gonna approach it a little different Even though I like what everybody's saying, I'm gonna get there eventually. But the first place I'm gonna start is with me and mama. Me and mama need to sit down and talk, because the result of my child outburst might be because what they see in us. So we need to look at how we're behaving in front of them. Maybe our emotions toward each other is making them feel that they have to choose one side or the other. Maybe the way that I respond to her or she respond to me is something of that nature. So me and mama need to sit down and talk and find out, are we displaying any behaviors that may, cause our child to behave erratically, so forth and so on. And then after we search ourselves and understand where we exist within the space of relationship, how we're showing up as parents, how we're showing up as a couple, then we as a unified front is going to move to our child's space. We're not going to bring the child out in the living room, right? We're going to go to their space where they're isolated at, because apparently they feel comfortable there. So we're going to go to their space and we're going to sit down and we're going to talk. And Gaddy, just like you said, we're going to ask questions, right? Because we're seeing some things, and this isn't us putting you on trial. We're not on the witness stand. We just want to understand what is going on. And in the midst of that, if they do not feel comfortable opening up, I don't stop there. We're going to keep going back. We're going to keep going back until they get to the point of relaxing and then being open and honest. And then if it seems like we're doing it too many times, or we seem like we're frustrating the child, then I'm gonna go to Roland's perspective, and I'm going to bring the book and say, here, you don't feel comfortable talking, just write it down, because we care, we're concerned, and we want to help you manage whatever it is you got going on. So that's kind of, in my opinion, I think that's how we create that safe space for them to be open and honest and reveal what's going on in their life.
I'm
know
glad
what?
you said that. I'm glad you said that you would go into their space, but you didn't make it sound like it was invasive, like you were coming in to take over. You are asking to be invited in, because that is the space where they are comfortable. And you need to make them as comfortable as possible for them to be able to talk to you. This is the trust thing. This is the trust thing that parents need to show that they can allow their kids to have. Because if a kid trusts their parent like all the way, they'll tell you anything. They will open all the way up with anything. But that trust needs to be built. So I'm glad you said that, and I'm glad you didn't make it seem like you were invading their territory.
Yeah, I wanted to share this because, Coach, while you were talking, because consistency with your children is definitely the key. I remember when Messiah, when we got to Texas and he started going to daycare and pre-K and stuff like that, every day we used to ask him, Messiah, how was your day? At first he wouldn't say nothing. Then we used to, got a little worried. Then we said, Messiah, how's your day? Good. What did you eat today? Food. Right? Every day he'll give me a little bit more. We ate Cheerios. We ate this. We ate that. That's it. Then it got to the point where, Messiah, how's your day? Good. And I ate this for breakfast and I ate that for lunch. Right? But now in what grade your nephew enrolled in? Second, third? He in one of them grades, right? Yeah, second grade. Messiah walked through that door. I can't get away fast enough before he get out. Daddy, guess what I did today? And he's just shooting it out there. So, Daddy, I got into my first fight today. When he told me that, I was like, "You did?" Right? And I didn't jump down the throat. I asked what happened. Then I shared with him, how do we handle this situation better? I taught him how to punch better. But nah, I'm joking. But
Damn right.
I did. I just don't want nobody out there to think violence is the key. But these are conversations now that he looks forward to having with me. But it started with the good. He didn't want to talk about it no more. He didn't enjoy talk. We used to ask him certain questions, and then he'll got to the point to where he just repeated that out real quick. So you stop asking him questions by his day, so he can go on, do his homework, and find something to eat. Now he comes home and he overshares to an extent of how his day went. And so you have to be consistent with your children. You have to make that safe space their normal space in your house. and they will share with you what's going on in their life. So that's why I don't understand how some parents have children that they can't get nothing out of, like nothing. Because for me, it is not just important. Like, no, he's not my friend, and he knows that. No, we're not brothers, we're not buddies, but that's my dude. But he understands who daddy is, but he knows even though daddy would chasten him, I can still come and tell him anything, and he won't judge me. It's a fine line, but I do like that you brought that up, Coach, that you don't stop because they were not comfortable. Got to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, because life happens, and I think a lot of times we forget that children, they're learning life to where we already have life habits and patterns that we've created. And in your particular situation, I'm glad you brought that to the table because as a soldier in the army, like you move, you pick up and you go here. So you change the child's dynamics. So now it's like they're slowing down, like when they get to the new location, like they're, trying to figure out how they fit in. It's just team dynamics, right? Trying to figure out how they fit in, like who they can find, who their friends. I hope this person likes me. I hope this person likes me. And then there may be a small degree of resentment that they don't want to share with you simply because at the end of the day, Daddy, you made me leave my friends behind. And I got it. They're kids. They didn't necessarily consider the fact that Daddy didn't have a choice. Like I had to move. I had the PCS. But in their mind, it was like, that's my best friend. I left my best friend. I don't get to see my best friend anymore. And all of these things are bottled up. And then when you start talking adolescents and teenagers, things of that nature, now you're talking about significant, boyfriend, girlfriend relationship, hormones, all this other stuff, wanting to be cute, wanting to, play sports and build a reputation, and all of that stuff factors in. So you have to be consistent. You can't just expect them to, especially if some of those things are about me, right? I had the PCS. I might be the reason why they're upset right now. I might be the reason why they're having this emotional outburst. So that's why I said start with mama. Me and mama, you and your spouse sit down and talk first and figure out where we are within this grand scheme of things. And then we as a unified front, we go and sit down and talk. And again, it's just like going to counseling. When you go to counseling, you probably won't open up the first time you go. It may take like 2, 3, 4 times before you even open up. And you're a full-grown adult. So why you expect your child gonna open up on the first time? Hey, I'm your daddy. I need you to talk to me. Oh, that made me feel real comfortable, Dad. Thanks. You know what I'm saying? Don't work that way. So yeah, we got to get to the point to where we give our kids the same level of grace that we expect another adult to give us as we were in that same situation. So man, I greatly appreciate your points. Again, man, the chats are getting it. Cassandra said, I honestly lived that with all 3 of my children. We went through counseling and had active role reversals and role playing to understand what the issue is. And that's a great technique. Role reversal and role playing is awesome because you get to see what you look like in the eyes of your kids. Man, listen, talking about hilarious. The Traveling Geek is over here laying down science, by the way. So the Traveling Geek said, number 1, and I think the Traveling Geek has like 3 points. Number 1, understand a person's strengths and limitations. 5, okay. How they react under pressure, how well they develop new relationships, and how self-motivated and adaptable they are. I like that. Absolutely. What's the next point? Once your teen can recognize their emotions, they'll start to foresee how certain situations make them feel and react and why. This kind of foresight can be very valuable. I think the next one, there we go. Emotional intelligence is not only about being aware of one's own emotion, but also empathizing with the emotions of empathizing with the emotions of others. We recognize other people's emotions mostly through sight. True, absolutely. That was the piece I wasn't trying to bring out in the beginning, but you're spot on. And then number 4, as a parent or important adult, you represent to them the very best the world can be. If they interpret that as judgmental or critical, they'll approach the world with defensiveness. Absolutely. Absolutely. And last, they are the ones apologizing for something. Show them how to do forgiveness. Not every bad behavior has to invite a consequence to teach an important lesson. Yeah, I agree with that as well. And I definitely agree with the forgiveness piece because I would tell you, for me, I struggled with not so much forgiving, but apologizing. I struggled with apologizing as an adult because as a young adult, because I never really seen people apologize when I was young. I've never seen nobody apologize for nothing when I was growing up. So that's a great point that you bring in. Thank you for that. Like I said, Traveling Geek was dropping some knowledge. Roadblock 63, welcome to the show and appreciate that, man. Definitely. And you're welcome back anytime. yes, that coach example or mirrored great process to adopt. And thank you. I appreciate that as well. Mr. Dwayne, I've lived that, and I'm the one currently that bottles up their emotions, and due to the trauma, I don't remember most of my childhood. My heart goes out to you, brother. And again, that's an example of what can actually happen when we don't allow the child to openly express and learn how to manage those emotions within the space of the trauma that they're experiencing. Again, sometimes trauma, like we talked about with Brother Gaddy PCS, and sometimes trauma is like you can't avoid it. So the best thing we can do is teach them how to recognize in certain situations it is what it is. Did you cause the situation? Right? Are you a part of the situation turning out that way? If it's outside of your control, it is what it is, and help them to understand that. Go ahead, brother.
And I was just going to add to what the young brother was saying. Sometimes you may not know what happened, but you know what triggers you. So
Right.
start to identify the triggers, write them down. Say, man, I'm triggered when this happened. And then it may allow you to trace some steps, or if not that, just to say, man, this triggers me. I don't know why, but you can handle it in a different manner because you know it's coming.
Absolutely. And it's still never too late to fix it either. All right.
Man.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say I understand exactly what you're saying, dude. Not dude in disrespectful way, my bad. Mr. Christian. Because kind of both with what Coach was talking about with the PCSing, it was kind of my life within the city of New York. We moved around a lot. We went through a lot of trauma, a lot of history there, right? And the bottling up or not having a safe space because my mother was always going on, because we jumped from here to here, and because we ended up there, we really didn't have time for safe spaces or to live a life of normalcy, right? And so a lot of stuff now is forgotten because it was suppressed. And I shared that real quick to share with you that you are not alone in that journey of figuring that out, right? And I don't necessarily share with everybody what I do because it's not necessarily healthy, because I think it might be another form of suppressing. But I've gotten to a point in my life to where I'm just content with everything that happened. They're all my experiences, because I am who I am in spite of and because of. So, but that's me. But you ain't alone, bro.
Absolutely. So we're going to keep pressing, and Christian Barra, I would love to talk with you about that later. But absolutely. So we're going to keep pressing. Welcome to the show, Miss Christina Espinosa. So the next point is resistance to change. Emotional intelligence requires introspection, change, and vulnerability. Many people resist these due to discomfort or fear. So the scenario for this particular one is based upon this particular setting. Imagine you are a part of a traditional family where emotional expressiveness is not commonly practiced. Family members usually keep their feelings to themselves, and the emphasis is more on action rather than words. You have come to realize the importance of emotional intelligence and believe that open communication about emotions could improve your family relationship. However, when you've tried to initiate conversations about feelings, there's been resistance from family members due to discomfort or a sense of vulnerability. They seem to prefer the way things have always been and don't see the need for change. That being said, gentlemen, the question that I ask you in relation to this particular scenario, how might you encourage your family members to embrace the change and open up their emotions?
This is my family. I have learned that you cannot control what other people do, cannot control how other people react. If they do not want to have the conversation, or if they do not want to change, there's nothing that you can do about it. All you can do is leave the door open. That is it. At least that has been my experience. And they actually have to be willing to have the conversation and understand that it's going to be a conversation, not a back and forth screaming match about who did what. That is where I would start. But I think we have to establish the difference between encouraging and trying to force them to change and open up, because you cannot force anybody to do anything. You can encourage them and say, hey, the door is always open. You want to come talk to me, come talk. But I am not about to force you, because then it becomes invasive. And that's really where the resistance comes into play, when it feels forced. Sometimes it has to be their idea. Whenever you're ready.
I think for me, I think I would probably tackle it one-on-one with one person at a time. The person who actually may share some commonalities in this field with me, or common feelings. And as you talk to that person, you can, I guess, get some traction, and you may be able to talk to another. And then eventually you have a multitude of the family saying, man, we really do have a problem with this. And then it's identified. Then you can say, hey, we need to sit down as a family and actually talk where one listens to another. And that's just something that you can try. I mean, but it's like, grown people don't like to change. Grown people like to stay the same. They like, okay, it's been working like this, even though it's not. But that's how they feel, because now, like Chris said, it's invasive. So they putting up like, hold up, I'm in a defensive posture instead of inviting, saying, hey, let's talk, let's welcome, because we don't like when people kumbaya and get their arms out like, okay, where the knife at? You about to stab me in the back. So if you aren't used to that, you want to make sure you tackle it one person at a time. That way you can get the whole group in the room without saying, okay, well, I ain't going to be there if Uncle Junior there, because whatever. So I think one at a time will help.
I think Uncle Junior ain't here to defend himself. I'm going to tell him.
I think another way to encourage them is to show them what it looks like, because a lot of them really don't even know what it looks like. That is kind of why they're resistant to it. They've never seen it before. It's kind of like when you are with a woman who has been hurt and you come along and you start treating her right, and then she try to sabotage the situation because she don't know what it feels like to be treated right. Kind of have to treat this the same way. They don't know what it's like to have an open conversation about how you feel. So show them.
Man, I would say this is difficult for me, because I think immediately to my brothers, right? And I told you, my father, he popped us in the mouth. We chew with our mouth open. But my father, he has taught us some of these things that we are identifying today as toxic, right? Because we were taught to be strong, and a part of being strong is you don't show emotion. Outside these doors is the enemy. You know what I mean? And in order for you to strive and drive on, in order for them to accept you as a man, as a human being, as soon as you cry, they think you weak. And now you can't navigate how you want. So you got to stand strong. You got to stand this. You got to, so strength has always been the key. And it's kind of like what Roland brought up earlier, because of the times he come from. My father was born in the 40s, came back from Vietnam, and he was still getting spit on, right? But I would try, and I do try when I talk to my brothers. I need to be better at calling people, because I don't call people at all. I'm trash with that. I'm honest. But when I talk with them, I think one of the things I tried to get them to see is that we don't have to learn a different aspect. We need to evolve how we understand what we were taught. So what is strength? Strength is a part of my emotional intelligence, right? Knowing how not to blow up because of my emotions is a part of emotional intelligence, but it doesn't necessarily mean I have to suppress my emotions. And sometimes we don't know where that line begins and ends. What is the difference between suppression and not reacting in? I don't know and maybe I don't know what that looks like. That's where we evolve. We got to study. And so I I would try, because this is what how my mind works, how I begin to see it, you know, and then express it on. Maybe it's just sometimes we got to change our circle too. I think I have a circle now of brothers who are not emotional, but that show intelligence in their emotions. That's not afraid to speak about what they feel, how they feel, but also speak about how do we walk and navigate with that. These are things I see even in my circle, so it's easy to walk there because it's a part of not just who I am now, but it's also a part of what I surround myself with. And so these are the things I would try to share with my family, because like I say, they were taught to be rocks. Even my sisters, some of the toughest females you would ever meet in your life, ever, 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 because they had that toughness to them.
Yeah, so this question can be a little tough. And Roadblock 63, that's me, brother. I'm with you. Like, I think we might be, we might be related in some shape, form, or fashion. Um, this one is tough because we can sometimes superimpose our perspective of success on the entire family. But what we probably need to accept is that some small portion of change is success. I think that's where it'll start out. For me, I would look at like reverse management. So whoever the leader of the family is, right? So generally there is one person that moves and the family moves in concert with that person. And that's the person I'm looking to team with. That's the person I'm looking to talk with. And that's the person I'm looking to cast vision to, because I want that person to believe it's their vision. So when I talk with them, I share it with them and share with them the possibilities, the outcomes, and the things that can actually bring the family together as a unit based upon us becoming more emotionally accepting of where each person is within their life. We're not looking to change you. We're just looking to open people up so that we can have a degree of transparency, honesty, and getting to the point of what we tend to call intimacy within the entire family as a unit. Once I can convince that person to, and again, it doesn't matter whether it's a large degree or small degree, if I can get that person to understand that this is necessary for the health of our family overall, then when that person tends to move in that direction, what you're going to find is that the family begins to move in that direction. And I think that is probably, for me, that will probably be my approach, because I understand that leadership is one of the basic foundational tools within the family unit. And we know it to be true because we use terms like patriarch and matriarch, right? And so on my father's side of the family, it was my grandmother. It's like whatever she want to do, that's what we move. When it comes down to my immediate family, it's my mother. However she moved, that's what we're going to move. And I'll make it be so, whatever it is she wants. And I'm the enforcer behind her thoughts. So if she want to do this, then I'm going to my sisters like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And so that's what I believe. That's my thoughts. Like, find out who the leader is, like pay attention and identify the leader, and then have an open, honest conversation with that person so that they can get the vision. Once they get the vision, then it's time to move in that direction. Go ahead, brother.
No, I was going to bring up, like in situations like that, I'm a person where if we're all talking, people don't want to talk and we're talking about ourselves, I will be open and honest. So I bring up something that's partially comical, but true about myself. So I say something like, okay, my name is Roland and I like country music. And people gonna be like, oh, you don't like country music. I'm like, yeah, I like country music. And then that'll kind of break the ice to where they feel like, okay, I can say anything, where I'm such and such. And then they telling things about themselves that we don't necessarily know. Because as family, you know what they show you, or you know what you think about people, and not necessarily what is. And we have to get to the point to where we actually know, like, why do you tick? Why are you so mad? Why, because when we can get that out, like me and my sister, we talk all the time. And truth be told, like, my sister's younger than me, but when it comes to certain things, my sister is you in the family. Where if she says what goes, I'm the person that say, hey, what she said. Like, okay, what she said, that's what's about to happen. I don't care what y'all talking about. Whatever she said, that's what we about to do.
I love it. I love it. So as we get ready to transition into our final thoughts, and again, we appreciate everything you guys have put in the chats, and we want to make sure that we honor and respect and appreciate your times. But as we get ready to transition into our final thoughts, we want to recognize the newest member of the Empowering Perspective program, Empowering Perspective membership program. We want to recognize the newest member. All right, Lisa Keys and Michelle Ray, welcome to the program. Thank you so much. Chris is over there rocking out. I'm telling you.
That was my
Um,
Jersey Shore fist pump.
oh man, it's always exciting, always exciting. So again, bittersweet moment. As we transition into our final thoughts, we're going to let the poor man Dr. Phil close us out tonight. So we're going to start with Brother Gaddy, then we're going to go around to Chris and to myself, and then close off with Mr. Roland Walker. So Brother Gaddy, you have the floor.
Hey, man. Final thoughts for a show like tonight, for me, is simple, right? And I say this all the time. I say it often because this is one of the things I believe in the most: is continue to evolve, continue to grow knowledge, and continue to evolve. Because as people, as human beings, we think we know everything right now, but tomorrow there will be something new to learn. And concerning even something as simple as the emotions we walk and live with every day of our lives, we still struggle. Even those who are self-proclaimed emotionally intelligent, we struggle. So that's the key right there. Don't stay stagnant. Don't live in those moments of your emotions controlling what you don't do, what you do, who you don't talk to, who you talk to. Free yourself by learning, by knowledge, by evolvement, and then practice leaving your comfort zone and see if that don't help you change how you feel about things. Have conversations you're not used to having. You know, for a lot of men, a lot of young men out there, hey, go talk to a girl randomly, and you never know, because a lot of men are used to, we get rejected more than we don't. So a lot of men have a problem talking to girls. Hey, just peel the band-aid off and see if you don't become more comfortable in those things that seem as if they are emotional barriers. All right, evolve. Yeah.
My final thought is going to be kind of simple. Um, we have to stop using emotional intelligence as a buzz phrase. Words have meaning. And as men, we must be smart and intelligent with our emotions. But we also must acknowledge the fact that as men, we have them, and it is okay. It does not make you soft. It does not make you a punk. It does not make you any of the shaming tactics, the insults, or the guilt trips that they want to throw in your face just because you feel something. They are valid. You must process them and understand where they are coming from. Emotional intelligence is being intelligent with your emotions. You have them, embrace them, but be smart with them. That is all.
I think for me, it's just quite simple. Again, we have to get to the point that we have a better understanding of ourselves. Continue to, self-reflect on what situations make you respond in such a way that that you're not trying to move in the direction, that you're not trying to move in that direction. So, what situations make you respond less than the person that you want to be? What situation triggers you to such a degree that you reflect back on yourself, and it, in some cases, kind of make you ashamed of the way that you responded? And then ask yourself certain questions, and then go on a journey to overcome those particular automatic responses. It is without a doubt, it is a programming that exists. You have to rewrite the code to the program. And that's pretty much what we're trying to help people do here on the Empowering Perspective program. So, with that being said, I just want to make sure I address that, because this week we talked emotional intelligence. We're not finished, we still have more to go, but then we're going to bring feelings into the conversation, because remember, emotions and feelings are not synonymous.
Man, these brothers said it all. They said enough. But if I can add anything to what they said, it would be to continue to learn yourself. Learn yourself and learn what triggers you, because you're learning your partner or your friends and you're learning what triggers them. So never use what you learn against someone else, because that's what we tend to do. We tend to say, okay, and you don't say it outright, but you say it in your actions when you know what to move them to do what you want. And that's called manipulation. And you never want to manipulate your friends or family. You never want to manipulate them to do something that they didn't already want to do. So when it comes to emotionalism, emotional intelligence, keep learning yourself so that you can help someone not be in the same position that you found yourself in time and time again, or at times in the time past, because you don't want to continue a line of hurt. You don't want that train to continue to go. You want it to get off the track. And if we do that, we can find ourselves looking at family members, friends that are healthy in their relationships and healthy in their endeavors with other people. So as we go on throughout this week, I ask that everybody sit back and think about the things that trigger you, the things that you know set you off or put you in a certain space to where you don't necessarily feel right, or you feel like putting up your fists. Sit back and learn those things and write them down. And when you write them down, write down how it made you feel at the time, and the things that you may be able to do to get yourself out of that funk, out of that zone, or see how you can do things better on the next go round. And if we're here to help you, because even in the chat, you help us. We read the comments, we see what you're saying, and that's why we ask for you to get involved. And as you get involved, and as we read these things, we're like, man, this is something that we could talk about, because it's therapeutic for us just getting up here expressing ourselves. So we thank you and we appreciate you and your assistance while we go through this whole ordeal, because this is something that our community needs, and this is a community. So we appreciate you. We thank you. And until next time, we'll see you then.